This morning on BRN, are American foods really unhealthier? Joining me now to help break it all down is Dr. Darin Detwiler of Northeastern University. Dr. Detwiler, great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So I'll start with a basic question. I think the reason for us reaching out to you, and I think there's so much in the news about our food system and whether or not it's healthy or not healthy relative to our peers in Europe and Canada, et cetera. So basic question for you, sir, as a totality, is American food unhealthier compared to our counterparts in Britain and across the globe?
I think that first off, food is food, but it's how it's packaged, how it's presented, how it's regulated, how it's labeled. There are a lot of reasons why food seems to be healthier in Europe than it is here in the United States.
And why would it be healthier? I mean, food is food. And look, I was telling you, joking offline, I like my Fruity Pebbles and my Fruit Loops. By the way, they're not sponsors of the program, but I love them. But there seems to be maybe a little bit of a difference to the packaging here versus elsewhere.
Well, very much so. I mean, in Europe, you have certain banned ingredients, various additives, artificial colorants, dyes, food dyes, things like that. You have a company here in the United States that makes like the Fruit Loops, that makes certain products, and they will package things. They will have a different recipe for the food that they sell in Europe than the recipe for the same exact product that they sell here in the United States. And a lot of it has to do with stricter food regulations across the European Union. So the European Union, not only its member states, but also other non-member states, they follow a lot of the same very strict food guidelines in terms of banned ingredients, regulations regarding GMOs, food labeling standards, reliance on ultra-processed options, things of that nature, fewer pesticides, organic farming, things that have different policies here in the United States. So food products in general are different in the European Union than they are here in the United States.
And would I be able to pick up on that if I'm out shopping at the local supermarket? I pick up a bag of rice. Nothing's coming to me, or a chocolate bar, or Fruity Pebbles. Would I be able to tell by looking at the label, hey, this includes some things maybe that aren't as good for me and I need to reconsider my choice?
If you were to have picked up that candy bar at the airport in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York, whatever it is, and then go to, let's say, Amsterdam or London and buy the same candy bar there, and then look at the two ingredient lists and look at the overall labeling, you would see a difference. If you were to go to a Burger King or McDonald's at the airport here in the United States, and then go to a Burger King or McDonald's in London or Amsterdam or any place in the European Union, and look at the signage on the walls, look at the different listings, you would notice immediately a difference in terms of a lot of different the foods. They may have the same names, but when you start looking at the ingredients, when you look at the precautions or the instructions or the guidelines that are presented there, at the either again on the package of the item or in the actual facility, you will definitely notice a difference. And a lot of it has to do with not only those regulations, but the fact that there's some cultural differences in the European Union. Everything from subsidies. I mean, here we have like subsidies for sugar and subsidies for ingredients. There, you typically see more subsidies for whole foods and even higher taxes on sugary foods. There in Europe, bread is actually defined differently than bread here in the United States. I was recently in Amsterdam, and I can eat the bread in Amsterdam, but here in the United States, I don't eat bread. I don't eat a lot of the pasta because it's so different in terms of how it impacts my body.
And doctor, based on, do we need to revisit? I guess a lot of this conversation has started because there'll be a new administration, new cabinet members. Do we need to have a conversation about how we look at food? I know we have we have a national obesity crisis here in the States. We have diabetes and other diseases. Is it important to have the conversation about what our food supply looks like, how we process our food, et cetera?
Very much so. I haven't heard enough conversation about what things may come about. I mean, I've heard some promises, I've heard some concepts, but I haven't heard enough in terms of what really would focus on some of the heart of the problem. One is we need to look at the roles of our federal and state regulatory agencies in terms of that. There was a lot of criticism over California for banning certain additives to foods, and yet now we're looking at should we be doing that at a federal level? We look at the idea that, I mean, you can go to Costco right today and see a lot more things talking about protein. Protein has its literally like its own aisle in terms of, snacks and supplements and things like that. But not all protein is the same. Not all protein is whole protein. And in terms of processed food, one of the problems we have in the United States is that so much of our food, even the things that are touted as being healthy, are highly and even ultra processed. And those come with complications in terms of food safety and the overall nutritional value. My prediction is one of the newest labels we are likely to see within the next 5 to 10 years is a label on packaged, commercially packaged and ready to eat foods at your stores that indicate the level of processing. Is it zero to minimal processing, or on the other end of the spectrum, is it ultra processed? And I think that that's going to start having an impact on how consumers view the food that they're eating. We've seen this around 2015. There was data that's showing that Americans spend more of their food money on food that's prepared outside the house than they do on food that they prepare themselves at home. We have to take that into consideration in terms of the trends with our nutrition, our obesity epidemic, our food safety crises going forward.
And Professor, I mean, tongue in cheek, asking you this question, but do we need to go back and watch reruns of Julia Child on PBS to get back to, you talked about most of us, and myself included, I'm a Grubhub fanatic. I like my chicken and broccoli sauce on the side. But do we need to go back to learning how to prep our own food? And it doesn't have to be difficult, because to your point, there's Grubhub, there's all these different services out there that deliver food either to you, they deliver them in ingredients so you can prepare. But do we just kind of have to go back as a society and say, look, we're actually hurting ourselves, and maybe we need to make our own stuff too?
Yes, to an extent. You know what? I don't think that the McDonald's or the Fruit Loops or the Grubhub were meant to be 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And I think that unfortunately there are sections, there are pockets of our society that thinks that that's okay, that thinks that, dehydrated this or frozen that or ready to eat this is the way to go every day. Those were never meant to be like all of our meals. What I see in terms of with bariatric surgeries and the Ozempic and a lot of the anti-diabetes kind of movement is people are starting to look at the idea of fewer ingredients, making them, making foods you're on your own with less foods, using whole foods. There's a lot more. I mean, it's hard to miss this on social media. There's a greater percentage of videos that are showing you how to do things that is not necessarily take this packet and that packet and that packet, but how you can have this raw, this fresh, this, whole this, and make these, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got your waffle, or you've got your omelet, or you got your, your flatbread, whatever it is. I think we're seeing that move. I think that consumers with the social media, not only have they become more in terms of stakeholders in the food industry, but they've become more aware of the idea of the role they play, not just in terms of voting with their food money, but also taking ownership of what they do with their food and what they put in their body.
Yeah, really well said, Doctor. I think this is something, look, with all the disease, diabetes we talked about, cancer, et cetera, this is a big issue. I think we're going to be talking about this for a while. Dr. Detwiler, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon, sir.
Thank you very much.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, are at our website. And we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving. Don't forget, roll with the changes.